We're going to get started here in just a second. Callie's got her presentation. The other thing, and we'll probably get into it, I won't steal any of her thunder, I think, but there are two programs. One is an Xcel program and one is a non-Xcel program. And so tonight will be mostly about the Xcel program. But if you get our newsletter, Ellie had in our newsletter some information about the non-Xcel program, and you can read on that there or contact us, kind of thing. So Callie is a manager of the Solar Schools program and a number of other programs at Xcel, and I'm just so happy that she took the time to help us with this tonight to put this together. So Callie, why don't you just go ahead and start us out, and we'll go from there.
Absolutely. Thanks for the introduction, but Doug, I'm just doing a couple of IT things quick. So today I am going to talk a little bit about Xcel Energy, our role in the renewable space, kind of the goals that we're working towards and achieving. And I will also be talking about our specific renewable program, since that's kind of my line of expertise. And then lastly, talk about the Solar Awards for Schools. This is the new program. Like Doug said, it's kind of the sister program to what they're doing with the Department of Commerce. They're kind of tackling all of the non-Xcel Energy territory and schools that want to participate there, whereas we're just focusing strictly within our territory. And our programs differ a little bit. So I'm going to go through that as well. And I would love, if any of you have questions throughout, just to throw them at me. I like kind of that interaction, so I don't feel like I'm talking by myself for an hour. So throw them out if you have them, or throw them in the chat. And Ellie or Doug, if you see those come into the chat, feel free to just interrupt me, and we can get those questions answered on the fly. But we'll also have some time at the end for questions as well. All right, so Xcel Energy, this is just a little introduction to kind of where we're at. We serve 8 states throughout the country. Again, I'm primarily focused on Minnesota, but our territory spans the Dakotas, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan Peninsula. And we also serve in Colorado, New Mexico, and Texas. And we are a nationally recognized leader for a couple different categories. We have the most wind energy that we produce nationwide. We've been recognized for our energy efficiency and, of course, our carbon emission reduction goals, which I'll talk about a little bit in the next couple of slides. And just great innovation technology. We're really trying to take those next steps to kind of what's next with energy, and also storm restoration. You know, we've been recognized with the Edison's Electric Institute's Emergency Recovery Award for outstanding storm restoration efforts. And I know with the news that we've seen this last year with Texas experiencing those issues. And I don't know, actually, maybe Doug, you might know this, if those, I don't believe that was Xcel Energy territory down there that were experiencing those outages during the freeze. But that's something that we pride ourselves in our restoration efforts. So we have kind of 3 primary goals or priorities, so to speak, when we're doing our business. Basically, any kind of decision that we make, we consider these 3 pieces. You know, will this help us lead the clean energy transition? You know, how can we enhance the customer experience? And will this impact our bills? Can we keep our customers' bills low? So those are kind of our 3 primary priorities. And just a couple more points about that. So leading that clean energy transition, this is what I was speaking about with those carbon-free goals. So we plan to, we were the first company to really announce our vision to provide carbon-free energy. And the goal is to reach 100% carbon-free by 2050. We're really close. It's crazy to think that 2030 is really not that far away. And so we're really cracking down and taking strides to meet that 60% goal to get us there to meet those needs. So I think currently, and I'm not sure if this number is completely up to date as of today, but we have reduced carbon emissions by 44%. And all of these numbers are in comparison to our 2005 levels is kind of our baseline. So since then, we've cut carbon emissions 44%. And as far as enhancing the customer experience, this is really one of our top priorities. Again, in this list, but just company overall, it's something that our group, especially in renewables, really pay attention to really meet and meet those customers' needs and providing more choices. Specifically, renewable choice, that's the name of our program, and choice is huge when meeting the evolving needs and interests of our customers. We offer more than 150 efficiency and rebate options to help them manage energy use and control their bills. So that's just a little bit more on how we're delivering meaningful products and services to our customers. And last but not least, we want to keep bills low. Right now, our bills are below the national average, which is really great. Energy affordability is one of our top priorities for our customers. And I think right now, our average monthly Xcel Energy residential customer bill is actually, it's 24% below the national average in Minnesota. So we're really taking strides to invest in the clean energy transition in order to keep those bills low. And that also translates to our programs and what we're doing, and to kind of fight, the rate of inflation that's happening right now. Again, if there are any questions, shout them out. I see a couple in the chat. So how has energy demand changed since 2005? That's a really great question. I unfortunately do not have those numbers, but I'm sure I would think it kind of transitioned similarly to, to our carbon reductions, and maybe even rised a little bit. But that's a great question. I can get back to you on that if that's of interest. All right, and just another great graphic, like I just talked about, in 2020, our results, so this is actually different than the number that I just gave you, but we were 51% since our 2005 goals. 2030, we hope to be 80%, and 2050 is 100%. So these are just our big benchmarks in our commitment to meeting clean energy. But what does that look like for Minnesota? So this is our primary stats in Minnesota right now. You can see our territory is highlighted in red, and we cover a majority of our metro area. All of our metro area is covered by Xcel Energy, and we actually serve natural gas as well. So through 1.3 million are electric customers, and we have a little bit less natural gas customers, and those are mostly in the surrounding areas, not so much the metro area. And we're known for our 99.9% electric reliability, which is excellent. And then, in addition, one of the metrics that I like to say is in Minnesota, we serve 754 communities across the state. So that's quite a large chunk of customers that we serve, and we're really looking to spread, renewables to as many corners of the state as we possibly can. So how are we meeting our carbon-free vision in the Midwest? So these are kind of our 4 cornerstones on how we plan to do that. We're working to achieve these aggressive clean energy targets in order to protect the reliability and affordability through our integrated plan. And we propose, closing all of our coal units in the upper Midwest a decade ahead of schedule to really kick that off, get it going, and ensuring the reliable and affordable energy. We're also, extending the use of our nuclear energy and at our Monticello plant. So that's going to be a big part of, making sure that the carbon-free goal is reached. So a few more points to kind of touch on that. I think we propose to close our AS King coal plant in 2028 and Sherco coal plant, if you're familiar with those, by 2030. And I think at that point, the coal plants in Minnesota will be officially closed. We're, in addition, working to complete our largest ever wind expansion in the region by 2022. So this plan also calls for adding 3,500 megawatts of large-scale solar by 2030. So really adding those renewables at a utility scale. And that's something that my program isn't too much involved in. It's more our resource planning team. But it's so cool to see the work that is going in to make that happen. I see a question just came in. Oh, conversation. Great. I love it. So I see a question came in about Prairie Island nuclear plants. So that's another question that I don't have the answer to. I'm kind of just running very high level at the moment, but feel free to connect with me afterwards if you have those questions, and I can follow up with them at a later date. Let's see. Anything else that I want to note here? Oh, so about nuclear, I'll just say that, right now our nuclear plants today generate about half of our carbon-free energy for the upper Midwest. So they're really key to us meeting our carbon reduction goals. So I anticipate that our nuclear plants will stick around for a long time. And it looks like, at least until we meet our goal. Looks like we're going to maintain our reliance on our nuclear energy by extending the use of our Monticello nuclear plant to at least 2040 to bridge that gap. So that's a great question, actually, about the other nuclear plants and how they plan to either, close those down or how they plan to maintain those. And that I don't know at this point in time, but great questions. Question about, does Xcel plan to offer a solar rewards type program in Wisconsin? Great question. I know that Wisconsin is going through a whole kind of interconnection review process right now. We have our engineers and regulatory teams that are heavily involved in basically putting together what is known as MINDIP in Minnesota. It's our Minnesota interconnection process, and they're establishing that statewide for Wisconsin as well. So very similar process. And And we also are kind of building our program. So we did hire a Wisconsin-centered program manager to start managing the mostly for our Solar Connect program, which is a utility-owned community solar garden program. So no plans as of yet for solar awards in Wisconsin. I think that'll ultimately be decided by state legislature if that's the direction that they want to go. But we are planning for amped up Wisconsin renewables and net metering. So that is definitely coming down the pipeline. So I'm going to go ahead. I see these great questions coming in, but some of these might be best saved for the end regarding storage and that sort of thing. So I'll keep going. Wrapping up our Xcel Energy piece. I know with this group, Doug had let me know that there was a lot of interest with electric vehicles as well. So just wanted to throw out these facts really quick as to where our electrical EV vision is at, kind of where our programs are. And so far, I guess on the road, you know, we hope that there'll be 1.5 million EVs by 2030. Our team is really looking to drive that effort and get those charging stations up and making it more accessible to customers and being able to drive those EVs. And it's helping to change the power demand too, because there's a lot more folks with EVs, they're charging at night. So they're taking advantage of off-peak pricing. So time of day pricing is becoming more of a thing with EVs and those appliances that are getting turned on and charged at night. And ultimately, I think we hope by 2030 we'll have eliminated 5 million tons of carbon emissions just from the roads that are on the road, the EV vehicles. And that's about 3 tons of carbon reduction per vehicle. So that's pretty awesome. All right, and just to wrap up, I won't spend too much on these, but in terms of the innovation and technology that I referenced earlier, here are some of the areas that we are looking into. In Colorado right now, we're working with an advanced grid, smart meters. That's kind of rolling out, and I think it'll be a little bit until that rolls into Minnesota territory, but we're starting to get that process moving in our Colorado opcos. You know, process automation, this Google Assistant, all of these great technological advancements that are coming a part of our culture and a part of our processes. So really cool. I actually would love to learn a little bit more about this as I was putting together my presentation. I'm curious to know more about, you know, Google Assistant, for example, or this cool drone picture that you see here on how they're servicing the lines.
Callie,
that's being used. Yes.
I don't think your slides are moving forward. You're stuck on the meeting carbon-free vision.
Oh, thank you. Sorry about that. I got 2 presentations going here so I can see my notes. So I do apologize. There's the drone. And this is what our teams have been using to take a look at the electric grid and assess and troubleshoot. So pretty cool. Thanks for that, Doug. Yeah, don't be afraid to interrupt me. But now I'm excited. I'm moving on to our renewable choice options. So this is something near and dear to my heart. I will go through all of our options today. But again, my specialty is specifically around solar, the Solar Awards program in Minnesota, and just net metering in general. But it's nice to know that Xcel Energy has these renewable options available to kind of meet your needs. You know, not every customer is interested in installing panels on their roof. Maybe they want to subscribe to a solar garden and get their renewables that way. So here's our current menu, so to speak, of our renewable energy options. And I will go through them today, but there's two types. We have our subscription-based programs, Renewable Connect, Wind Source, or Solar Awards Community, or the on-site where you can actually install DER or the renewable energy resource, distributed energy resource on site at your location. The third, or that final option that we have down at the bottom, is called the certified renewable percentage. So this is a relatively new program that lets our customers, whether they're residential or commercial, helps them meet their renewable energy goals that much further. So, you know, our energy mix already has a decent amount of renewable energy, a decent percentage of renewable energy in there. And so we allow customers and companies with very high renewable energy goals to already use that percentage as a portion of the renewable energy that they're using. So it's a great foundation to support their renewable energy efforts. And there's a program that allows you to do that and helps you calculate what your specific renewable energy percentage is to get credit for those renewable energy points. So first, and I'll kind of go through these pretty quickly, so stop me if I'm going too fast. Wind Source. This is just a subscription program month to month that's primarily wind only. So it's a really quick and easy way to source 100% clean energy for your energy use. Right now, it's I think our lowest cost. You can sign up online. You can subscribe for just a portion or all of your energy, and participation can begin immediately. So it's really great, and that a great and easy option to get you going right away. On the other hand, we have Renewable Connect. So this is a solar plus wind option. Right now in Minnesota, this program is fully subscribed. The pilot sold out pretty much immediately. And now our team is really working to continue to build those utility scale solar and wind farms to allow for more subscriptions. So the next opening is expected actually sometime this year in early 2022, maybe end of Q1 or beginning of Q2 for longer term contracts. So we basically are opening up and setting up 150 megawatts of wind plus another 50 megawatts of solar and adding that to our energy mix and making it available for customers through this Renewable Connect program. And Solar Awards Community, this is our solar garden subscription where we have third-party solar garden developers, and they're the ones that actually contract our customers. So we work with those third-party garden developers to get their gardens up and running, connected to our grid, and then the contracts and subscriptions are handled outside of Xcel Energy. But we, so the customers will pay their garden operator for the subscription, but Xcel Energy will administer the bill credits that come with being a participant of the solar garden. Let me just stop quick and see if there's any questions. Okay, that was about the slides. Thank you.
Callie, this is
Yes.
Kristen. This is Kristen Berkland from the Minnesota Office of the Attorney General.
Yeah.
Just one thing for folks to know, because we sometimes get calls and confusion on this, so you would be best able to explain this.
Mhm.
If folks sign up for a Solar Rewards Community Solar Garden, you will get 2 bills. You will get your subscriber bill, and then you'll get a bill or a statement from Xcel showing either what's left or the credit you get if the garden generates more than you get billed for energy. It'll show the credit that you get. So just, I know folks have contacted us before, kind of not understanding why they're getting something from their solar garden and something from Xcel.
Mhm. Yeah, that's correct. And that's because, your subscription is through the solar garden. And so they kind of manage the size of your subscription, and, the production of the garden and how much, is received by each one of the subscribers. So there's a little bit of math and computation involved, and then we'll send out the energy bill with those credits. That's correct. One of the things to note too, and I think I have a slide later on this, but I'll just touch on it quickly, is RECs, or renewable energy credits. Depending on the program that you participate in, whether it's a subscription to Renewable Choice or Wind Source, Solar Rewards Community, the ownership of the RECs is slightly different. So for Solar Rewards Community, all of the RECs that are generated from the solar garden, they actually are delivered to the utilities. So we own all the RECs. The renewable energy credits that a customer would get through Wind Source or Renewable Connect are actually owned by the customer. So they can make claims, the customer could make claims that they use renewable energy. When the RECs are delivered to another party, for instance, with Solar Rewards Community, those claims are a little bit different. You can't claim that you're using renewable energy, but that you're supporting renewables or supporting solar in your community. So I'm going to skip down to on-site, starting with net metering. And sorry, I'm just going to fly through this. So net metering is when it's actually installed on your property, on your roof. You own it. You own your own. And with net metering, this is our non-incentivized program. So it's basically the size of the system is capped at either the lower of 1 megawatt or 120% of that customer's annual usage. And this program allows for full REC ownership. So any production, megawatt hours that you would produce, you would be able to claim that and file it. With our solar rewards, this is our most popular program in Minnesota. It's another way that you can own your own solar. It's installed on your own roof. But instead of receiving those RECs and owning them, Xcel Energy.
Callie, that's, yep.
Thank you. Xcel Energy will make incentive payments to the customer instead of the RECs. So, and those incentive payments are 4 cents per kilowatt hour production for residential customers, 3 cents for commercial. This was recently decreased in this last year, basically cut in half. We were seeing last year that we had to shut down our solar rewards program in April of last year because we had so much volume, so much interest. And knowing that we'll still have the same interest, we dropped the incentive to allow that many more solar customers to be able to participate. And we are forecasted already to be 37% allocated by mid-February. So we're cruising already. And it's looking to be very popular and lucrative again. We also have low-income offerings as well for nonprofits or government agencies that are serving these low-income customers or constituents. We have low-income single-family offerings, as well as multi-family unit buildings. Tenant landlords tenants can connect solar directly to their unit, but they just have to have a signature from the landlord. And last but not least, as a part of just our offering for our non-incentivized net metering systems, and if you're a demand metered commercial or industrial customer and your system is greater than 40 kW, you can take advantage of our PV demand credit. It's basically a 7 cents per kilowatt hour credit that's applied during our peak hours of the day between 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. So it's roughly, you get, a 7 cent per kilowatt hour credit for 50% of your production. And this is very lucrative to our larger commercial size customers. It is an opt-in program that's, managed by our business solution center or billing teams outside of our application process. But if you or a customer is interested in this, we can help facilitate and make sure you can get compensated for your production that your system is generating. We have a really great comparison chart that I'm happy to send over to you all, just showing all of our renewable energy options and how they compare against each other. Which programs allow me to keep my RECs versus which RECs are owned by Xcel Energy. What is the minimum contract length? What are the different financial benefits from each of these? So it's a really great visual that we plan to keep updated as long as we can. And used almost like you're a frequent shopper and your online shopping, you can kind of compare and contrast each program. All right, I'm going to jump into solar rewards for schools. So as of, I think it was December 21st of 2021, we received a final approval from the Commissioner of the Department of Commerce with our rules. And so I'm going to kind of go through that. However, along with the Department of Commerce approval or the final decision, we also need to submit our tariff petitions and revised tariff contracts to the Public Utilities Commission for additional approval. So our program isn't up and running yet, but we hope to get it up and running probably as soon as Q2. Once we get approvals, and we'll be ready to go and ready to receive applications. Just kind of a quick background on solar on schools today and what we've been seeing. We've serviced 238 solar applications for schools today, whether they're currently in progress or they've been completed. Majority of those projects came in through our what I'm calling our second generation of solar rewards, which took place between 2014 and 2018. Majority of those were made in Minnesota projects. That was a department-run program, and we just facilitated the interconnection process. But we're really excited to be able to offer, more lucrative incentives now to schools. In addition, I think the incentives right now, they're going to be almost a little step above what we're offering for solar rewards, because we will be offering an upfront incentive. So our incentive structure looks like this. It'll be a 10-year contract for schools that wish to participate, a production-based incentive in addition to an upfront incentive that's kind of tiered based on the product type or the size of the system if it's income qualified. And Xcel Energy will own the RECs for the life of the system. So even though the incentive contract term ends after 10 years, will continue to collect the RECs for the life of the system, whether that's 20, 25, 30 years down the road. And it was ultimately decided that we would offer upfront incentives for every single project. So they have a 4-cent production-based incentive. And then it's kind of a tiered structure for our upfronts to provide a little bit more to those smaller systems, as especially the system gets larger, there becomes bigger, tax breaks, and we're just trying to even the playing field a little bit for every system size and every school that could participate, especially for those low-income schools. All right, I'm gonna save that question for later. So just a little bit more on program eligibility and how schools can participate. So I think this might be obvious to some people, but to participate in solar rewards for schools, you must be a school as defined by the Minnesota statute, and must be within Xcel Energy territory. Our program is going to process these applications on a first come first served basis. And so we really just allocate the projects and allocate the funding to those projects as we receive them. For income qualified projects, we will need to see proof of the number of students that are eligible for free and reduced lunch is either equal or greater to 50%. And the education plan component of this program is especially important.
Kelly,
The purpose.
that little
Yep.
mess, there you go.
Oh, thank
There
you.
you go.
So the education component of this is especially important. It's, this program was really to drive and share the solar experience and that education with students. So installed solar systems should be used as a teaching tool, and we're going to be looking for an education plan and or a letter confirming the plan from the school superintendent, president, or principal. And we'll be validating that upon application submission. Obviously I'm not an educator or an education expert, which is why we are just looking for validation that the plan exists. There is a plan to incorporate solar into the curriculum and that the superintendent, president, or principal has signed off on it. And just a quick review of our solar rewards for schools comparison compared with the Department of Commerce. So like I said, the primary difference, I think, between our two programs is location. The Department of Commerce is covering all non-Xcel Energy territory and schools in those areas, whereas we're strictly Xcel Energy territory. And the application process is slightly different. So they'll have 2 rounds of applications and looking for a notice of intent and evaluating an assessment. And then from there, kind of setting the order and setting the ranking for which school should get more funding compared to others. And then the grant application process will take place as well. So the first round has already started for the assessments, and the grant application is due in May. Second round will start in July. That's a typo there. And the final grant application is in November. For solar rewards for schools with Xcel Energy, it's going to be a first come, first serve process. So we aren't going to be ordering projects in order of financial need or anything like that. We'll just be going off of our incentive tier and allocating funds as we receive projects coming in. And we'll likely start, like I said, probably the start time is pending in Q2 2022. dependent on the Public Utilities Commission order, and we'll get that up and running as soon as possible. So that wraps up my program overview. I felt like I went through that pretty fast, but wanted to just put up the screen for a little bit for additional resources on our website to review our renewables, and also my program email that reaches our team if you have questions. We also have great resources with our energy experts for our residential customers, or the Business Solutions Center, which serves our commercial and industrial customers. And that number is on there as well. So I am going to stop there. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to change it over. So I'm going to leave this up as I answer some questions, because I saw some really great ones come through. So let me, and Ellie and Doug, keep me honest if there's a question that's in there that I haven't addressed yet. So there was a question that came in earlier about what is Xcel Energy doing with energy storage in Minnesota? That's a great question. I know right now there's a ton of research on the DER integration team that's going on in terms of how it's impacting our grid. Right now, we are seeing a decent amount of applications coming in that are solar plus storage. So as it relates to renewables and the program, many applications now, they're always not, one isn't submitted without the other. And we're even starting to see more energy storage applications that are getting submitted to connect with existing solar systems. So what I can tell you is the energy storage space is growing in Minnesota. We're just starting to see a lot more of those applications coming through. And I think we're still discovering, what that means for our grid in terms of utility scale, and if there's any new regulations that we need to apply there. But that is what I know at this time. I think it's not necessarily a new frontier. Batteries have been around for a while, but they're just starting to be that much more prevalent. And we're looking to adjust pretty quickly to accommodate those. Moving down to the next question here about RECs. Can I explain what a REC is and how should I feel about those as an individual customer? Do I care? Great question. And I realize now I don't have slides in there that kind of talk through the RECs. So a REC, or renewable energy credit, represents 1 megawatt of renewable energy. So for an individual consumer, someone that's a residential customer, a megawatt, a megawatt hour of energy consumption or production is a really large number. So it's kind of, it'll take a lot of production, probably over a few years, just to even get 1 REC for a residential customer. But what this is it's almost like currency for you to show and claim to some of these REC centers, or I don't know if anyone has heard of MRES. That's a company that'll allow you to claim your RECs, and then it's basically a renewable energy certificate that you can use to meet your renewable energy goals. So it's a little bit more, I think, beneficial for larger commercial size systems that are producing that much more energy, that much more megawatt hours, and they can use to trade those RECs or use it to build up their renewable energy credentials. I hope that helped answer your question. Let me know if I can elaborate further. Okay, One of the questions is about 10K modules. So I know this question says several 10K Minnesota made sites would like to remove and replace their systems. Will they qualify? So there's some nuances here. It depends on the program that you have a contract for. I know the Made in Minnesota program that was run by the Department of Commerce, they hold those contracts. So they would be the one that would determine how to handle those systems if a customer would like to remove and replace those systems. We actually have had a few of those customers recently ask and reach out to the department, and they figured out how to adjust their contract, and they are now installing a new system. For existing Xcel Energy run contracts, so that would be our Minnesota bonus, which I think is very similar, that had a lot of 10K modules that were used within there. And some of our early solar rewards programs, those we have a new amendment now, a contract amendment that would allow customers who have 10K modules that are no longer producing, or even some of the other kind of Minnesota made or made in Minnesota modules and equipment that are no longer producing as much, they can replace their systems. And basically this amendment to the contract will just extend their contract term, excuse me, on their new solar rewards contract. So for instance, if you were to remove and replace your systems now, your new solar rewards contract will be in place for 10 years, but it would just extend for the remaining, whatever the remaining amount of years there was in your previous contract. Let's say you had 6 years left, it would just extend your new solar rewards contract to 16 years instead of 10 years. So there is a way to kind of take advantage of the new program and also work to replace systems. And I encourage, anybody or customers that are looking to do that to reach out to your local solar installers to get more information about that. Question about the Solar Rewards for Schools curriculum. So is our team or the Department of Commerce involved in developing school curriculum to support solar on schools at different grade levels? We are not. So our group, we're just the vessel to receive the applications, but we're not going to do any sort of vetting or of the curriculum itself. We'll just see to make sure that the curriculum that's coming through is valid, and there's a plan to keep solar in schools for a certain period of time. But as we're going through, we held some stakeholder sessions. We talked to some schools and some educators that said that they want to make sure that their curriculum, while vetted, can be fluid throughout the years. So they won't be able to maintain the exact same curriculum and the exact same structure for 10 years. And so once we receive the application and we accept that curriculum, we'll actually ask for a photo upon installation of the system, that there is some sort of visual interactive component that the students or staff or parents can experience. That's a part of this component, and we'll ask for a picture of that. But once the system is up and running and we've given all the approvals, we won't really be involved with the ongoing reporting or maintenance, at least at this time. That could change as we go through. So does the non-Xcel territory apply to just IOUs or also cover co-ops? That's a great question. I assume it would, and I'm just insinuating at this point, but I think it covers basically all non-Xcel Energy territory in the state of Minnesota. So whichever school that'd like to participate, whether they're connected with a co-op or municipal or other utility, I believe they would be able to participate. The next question is, how much money is in the pot for solar awards for schools, or is it unlimited? There is a set amount of money that's set aside for these schools. I'm not exactly sure what it is for the Department of Commerce program, but for Xcel Energy, we will have $8 million set aside specifically for independent school districts or special school districts, K through 12, within the Xcel Energy territory. And there's also specific money set aside for state colleges and universities. Basically, I think it's $1.2 million that's specifically set aside for those state-run colleges and universities that are part of the board of regents. Okay. So there's a question regarding the incentive levels for the program. Let me just read this through really quick. And I'm not sure I understand the question. It's asking or saying that the incentive program, is meant to encourage individuals to install solar. That's correct. 4 cents per kilowatt hour. And then it says it's capped. So now those individuals are only getting 2 cents per kilowatt hour to accommodate additional customers. So I'm not sure exactly what that means. Any customer that is in our solar rewards program, residential customer, and they are allocated funding, they receive, we will allocate funding and make sure we have enough for their proposed system size to produce at max capacity. And we would pay 4 cents per kilowatt hour for all production that year for that customer for 10 years. So it's always going to be 4 cents per kilowatt hour of production for that year, for as many people as we can get participation in until our funding is depleted. And for our solar rewards program this year, our 2022 solar rewards program, we have $10 million set aside for incentives. We take a little bit off the top for some of our admin dollars that comes out of the overall program budget. So that leaves around $9.4 million strictly to allocate towards incentives.
But that's my question. Why wouldn't you just take everybody you can get instead of expanding nuclear systems? Why wouldn't you want a clean energy source if individuals are paying for the installation and everything? Why cap that enterprise, that initiative? Because it's one of the safe sources of energy. Why limit how much money can be spent by Xcel on that? Why not just take all comers and be really grateful for them?
So that's a great question. And I don't know if I can speak to that fully, but the $10 million that we get, that actually comes from state legislature. And that's what funds the incentives. So that money isn't coming directly from Xcel. It's a set pool of money that comes from the state to provide those incentives to customers. There's a question here about incentives. Question about, did I state that it used to be 8 cents per kilowatt hour? Yes, that is true. Prior to basically our second generation solar awards program that spanned from 2014 to 2018, we had an 8 cents per kilowatt hour production-based incentive. That was when we transitioned. All of our incentives used to be an upfront payment prior to 2014. Then we moved to a production-based incentive, which would incentivize our customers to maximize production for the full 10 years. And then since then, we've started to drop that incentive rate. We were, let me see if I can get this right. Our program nationwide had some of the highest incentives that were offered. And so just to keep in line with the cost of solar, and the cost per watt was starting to drop as solar was starting to become a little bit more affordable. And so we in turn dropped our incentives to kind of align a little bit more with that. And we're still sitting higher, I think, than majority of programs around the nation at 4 cents for residential and 3 cents for commercial. And thanks, Pete Lindstrom. He sent a note to everyone that says he's happy to point schools towards the solar rated curriculum that fits their needs, depending on which territory you're in. So I appreciate that, Pete, and looking forward to working with you more closely as we open our program in Q2.
Yeah, for anyone who's not on the Xcel program, Pete is the person at CERTS to talk to. That's Clean Energy Resource Team. And his phone number is 651-324-4831. And he's a great contact for people in the non-Xcel territory. Callie,
my colleague Fritz is on the line as well, and we tag team this effort. Fritz Ebinger.
yes, thank you.
Great.
Happy to help.
Callie, this has been a fantastic presentation. I think we really appreciate it. That's just really gives a good perspective on what Xcel's doing and how this program fits into it. If there's any other questions, we can go for a few more minutes if somebody has something that they really want to get an answer to.
Looks like they're asking about a recording, and I believe yes. I will also make sure, Doug, to send you a copy of my slides so that can be distributed as well if folks are interested.
Oh, that'd be great. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Anything from anybody?
Any other questions?
Hi, I have a question. I'm sorry, I couldn't type fast enough. You mentioned large scale solar installs. I forget the numbers, like, was it 300 megawatts?
Oh, are you referring to like utility scale?
Yeah, utility scale. Xcel was planning on, I understand they're planning on actually developing these themselves, or are you actually using kind of like the current business model of the community solar gardens where the developers build them, maintain them, and so forth?
I think we are using different partners, but it's totally different from our solar awards community structure.
Right, I understand several of them are going to be huge. Do you know when any of these are going to, like, when the first one is going to start construction?
I just know, I only know the specifics, well, not the specifics, but the numbers around our renewable choice program. I know that 150 megawatts of wind and 50 megawatts of solar are going to be added to the grid shortly, and will be able to be served. Customers will be able to be served by that additional renewable energy. As far as those other projects, I know there's other projects in the works, but I don't have those details at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Callie, there's been a question, and I don't know if this is one that you would get into, but people have been asking me, when Sherco does shut down, will the Sherco plant and all the, transmission equipment and everything, will that be connected to solar up there? Do you know?
I don't. Yeah, I don't know that.
Okay. Just seemed like it would make sense. I know it's been done other parts of the country, but all righty. Well, thank you, everybody. This has been great. I think this is good information. MRES will transfer this up and get it on the YouTube. And if somebody does need the slides from Callie, please contact me and we'll try to get them out to you as soon as we can. So Callie, again, thank you so much for helping out on this. And this is a very exciting program and a great way, I think, for Minnesota to educate our young people on what's coming in their future. So
awesome. Thanks so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. Thanks for the stimulating conversation as well.
Yeah, thank you. And
Thank you.
those of you on the MRES board will be reconnecting in about 25 minutes through the link that you got from Mark Weber. So thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.